Hi, I'm Steve Shelburne, owner and operator of Shelburne RV, here in beautiful Cleveland, Tennessee. All right, well, good Tuesday morning. Jen and I have been gone for the last 4 days. We were up in upper Michigan, and I'm glad to be home. Yesterday up there it was -2 degrees and the wind was blowing like crazy, so I'm glad to be back in my area where it's actually normal temperatures. So we're going to go around and look at a few things they got going on. I'm a day behind here, but obviously they're putting a battery box on the little Airstream. The battery was inside that door right there, and so the customer wants to do some more appliances and stuff like that, so they're going to move it to the outside and we're going to redo that. So I'll take you around and show you where they're at. I know we got a Springdale that we looked at last week that had floor problems, so I guess now that they've started pulling it apart, it's got more problems than what it had when we saw, so we're going to have to go look at that. But let's go look at that and see what we got going on this morning. While I was gone, they had a Norcold 1210 that came in with a bad cooling unit, and we've got the new JC Refrigeration brand new 1200 cooling unit installed on that, so that's ready to go back to the customer. Let's go out here and look at this Springdale. So the Springdale, you saw last week's video or so, we had a screw that was coming out on the bottom that was getting into the floor, and so they've got this ready to pull out. But they got to noticing this, and of course we never looked at this because we were looking at floor problems. Yeah, all the structure, that water has been leaking in here for some time. And so now, this whole wall, there's nothing there. So we're gonna have to call the customer and get him in here to take a look at this, but we're gonna have to probably come in here and pull this filing off, peel this back enough, and go in here and rebuild this structure. But this is another reason why we always say do the seal tech and make sure you're sealing it every 6 months. This is the result of a maintenance situation. And there's Cousin Gary. What are we doing, Cousin Gary?
Getting this ready for a cooling unit.
Another 1210 with a bad cooling unit. So Cousin Gary's in here. He's got it laid down here in the floor. And we're going to be pulling this cooling unit out and putting a JC Refrigeration cooling unit in this. So kind of see what they got going on here. Some of these, a lot of times you can't get them out of the coach to work on them, so you got to do it right here in the coach. Now obviously you can see this insulation was crushed all back in there. So we'll get all that spray glued in here, and then we always look at this vent in the roof to make sure it's free and clear of any debris. It looks pretty good. But yeah, Cousin Gary will be in here this morning, and I'll come in here and show you some more video as he gets it apart, show you what's going on with this. So they've got them a 2016 Mallard over here that they're doing the seal tech on. You can see the seal tech machine sitting in there, and customer had a lot of water coming in on this thing, and so I'll show you a few things that we found. I don't know if you can see it or not. It might be hard to see, but there's oh yeah, right there. Whoever installed the awning, there's a hole right there. Water's just pouring in right there. And then if you come around on this side, they had several places over here that had issues. Look at this. Sealant failure all the way down this. No sealant coming in right there. No sealant down this, so they had lots of air bubbles coming in right here. And then because they have the BAL slide system, the seal is broke, as you can see right there, so that's an issue. We have to do new seals. But yeah, just sealant failures down through here. So again, this is why we got to look at these things every 6 months, because even as nice as this camper looks, it's got multiple sealant failures going on this camper. So Cousin Gary's got the Norcold 1210 cooling unit out. I'll take you in here and kind of show you what's going on here. So typically when they put this together, the thermal mastic which is the magic, makes it transfer the temperature into the ice box and the refrigerator section. They usually take and just use that to seal that up. Now, we're not going to use that. We're going to use expandable foam. But now that he's got everything cleaned out, which is normally a nightmare to clean, we're going to retape all the edges, because you can see where the tape has come off here. He's going to retape, take all this old 100-mile-an-hour tape, pull it off, and he's going to retape everything, get this all nice and clean and taped up good. And then we're going to marry the new cooling unit down in there, and I'll show you how that's done. The Norcold 1210 cooling unit in here, and as you can see, we've got all the thermal mastic on here. Now, I use these pins to help line it up when I put it in, so that way it's a little easier for the holes to line up. But once we get that in there, then we'll go ahead and get all this bolted down, and then we'll do our foam. Okay, so typically when I put the cooling unit in, I always put these screws in first. There's 4 there, 2 there, 2 here. There's 4 that hold that in. And then we put the mastic on the unit, stick it in there. Then I put those screws in there, stand it up, tighten those screws, because I want that mastic pushing against the inside of the box. And then I come back out and take those screws out so I can lift it up. And then I foam. I went in there, I didn't show that, but I foamed all this real good inside their expandable foam. And now we've taped that to seal that completely up. Now, the thermostat that they use on these is 189 degrees. That's wrong. I want this coming on at 100 degrees. As soon as this cooling unit gets up to 100 degrees, we want to be able to get rid of that heat. That's number one, because we got to be able to get the heat out of here. So we've changed the thermal button to 100 degrees. We've actually put on 2 new fans. These fans here move more CFM than the original one, so I'll go ahead and change those out. And we do have the new heating elements, which are 225 watts. We've got those in there. So at this point, just trying to get some of the electrical done. We're going to get the water ice maker line run up there, get all that secured, and then we'll be ready to stand it up. And then we've got to deal with this insulation problem right here, and then we'll be ready to put the unit back in and then go ahead and start reassembling all the doors. So that's the next thing, is the ice maker, and we're going to do that now. So we're going to take a look at this Salem. This is the one that had all the blowout damage, and you saw where all the siding had been replaced. And Zach's got the new J-wrap, which actually we built in-house on that rolling machine you've seen us use back there. So we've got the new J-wrap on there, the new siding, and then they've gone through and resealed all this. We've talked about that in a lot of our videos. If you remember, this area was all rotted out and busted and broke. That's all repaired. And remember, all this was pulling loose. So now they've got all this sealed, and they've got all this sealed. Now they've got to still seal here, but you can see what they've got going on there. They've got this sealed. Of course, new J-wrap down along here. These plastic pieces were unavailable, so Zach actually made those. Put that nice little piece of trim on there. So we've got that done. Of course, seal here and sealed up through there. And then they've got the new J-wrap here. Remember, this had a whole bunch of problems here, and they've got all that fixed with the new J-wrap there. So they've got a little bit of sealant work still to do on this, but that's the easy part here. Now that we've got the J-wrap and the siding on, and you can see this is how this was. So we're going to go in here and fix all that, and that's all got to be sealed up so it doesn't leak. And then this was the one also that we showed you that they'd actually been hit right back here on the back. And so they went up there yesterday and did a full roof seal on that to resolve all those problems. So coming along on this one. So we're working on a Cummins 4 kW generator, spec letter P, and it's actually spitting fuel out of the carburetor. So we know we've got a carburetor issue that we're working on right now. And then seems it's not producing power, but we can't get it to run long enough with the carburetor it's got. So we're going to change out the carburetor, and then we're going to go through with our G-Man and get everything tested and see if we've got either a PC board problem or a stator rotor or brushes. So we're going to do that here in just a second. Okay, so further investigation on this 4 kW generator. We got the brush block assembly out, and you can see the brushes were bad. So we cleaned up the slip rings, went ahead and reassembled the gen set and load tested it. Everything load tested out. So we did have a bad carburetor and a bad set of brushes. Control board did check out good once we got a good set of brushes in it. So Brandon's back here working on this Cougar. Now you saw that where it had pulled the turn bar out. Well, we've got the new turn bar in it. Brandon's got the new powered electric awning on there, and he had to run the wires for the awning through there, up the wall, and then he's got the switch mounted right there. And he actually ran the wiring, which worked out really nice. You can see it right there across the top there, and then small hole right there which he sealed to power the awning. So now that he's got that all done, everything's working out great. Got the top of the awning rail sealed, top and the bottom, so no more leaks on that. Okay, so got a little progress done on this Springdale. I'm gonna turn this camera around and show you what we got going on. Now Springdale, you remember, is the one that's got the floor problems, but then we got to noticing there was no structure here. And as you can see, this thing's been leaking for a while because it's done damage all the way across the top. This is all missing. And then we've got some damage down here. Now, the reason we pulled all this off was we initially tried to take the upper part loose, and then the wind in, we tried to pull this out enough where we could service this. The problem was it was bending the metal right here. And so I was afraid that we got into this too much, it was gonna be a big hassle and it might damage the siding. So it didn't take us just but a few more minutes to go ahead and pull the siding off. And then this way we don't have to worry about bending the siding. So now we're gonna go in here, we're gonna rebuild all the structure, put this back on, put the siding back on, then we'll pull the slide out and redo this floor. Okay, so we just finished up the jack install on that Montana right there. Remember in the previous video, the jack was actually leaking. So we've got the new jack changed out and installed. Now, one thing that we've run into on some of these hydraulic LCI leveling systems, and I'm trying to get into this door right here. I'm going to show you this. So kind of the way this works is you can see this solenoid on here. So this system actually has hydraulic rams for the slides. And so when the operator runs the jacks up and down, that solenoid is in one position. When the slides go to open up, that solenoid opens or closes depending on the function and allows it to bypass this cylinder and send hydraulic fluid to the actual slide. We've had a lot of problems with these valves going bad. And so what would happen was when the customer went to run the slide out, the actual nose of the camper would fall and crush the pickup truck. And so we had a lot of questions about that, about how to resolve that. And one thing that LCI has told us to do to try to keep from having those troubles with those cartridges is to put this product in there, and then that resolves a lot of those issues. So a lot of times when we do the hydraulics on these, we will change that out with that. So unfortunately, that anti-stiction fluid that they have, the only place I've ever found it was at CAT. And so usually what we do is we had a lot of fluid out of there, so we put a half a quart of this into that system and then let him take it with him. And if he ever has to add any more, then he'll have some of that to do it. But that's usually the only place I've been able to find is that CAT. LCI doesn't even have none. That's where they told me to go find it. And my local CAT had like 6 quarts, but that was it. So just a little knowledge on that. All right, so just got done doing an auto level on the big Montana, so everything is good there. Made sure we had all the fluid bled through. So we're going to go ahead and do a retract on this coach so we can get it hooked up and get it out of here. So we're going to do that now and then put it on the truck and get going with it. All right, Wade, bring her on back. Yep. James has been working on a little chateau we got going on here. And we've got one of these old antique Awning Emerald Plus. These things are usually a pain to work on, but had a burned up starch solenoid, and then when we got to doing some more digging, we had a bad starter, what caused some of those issues. So James is in here now getting all this cleaned up. We got a starter. That starter has actually changed numbers now 5 times with Cummins. Of course, this is an old antique starter now in the world of generators. So James getting it all cleaned up. We got a new starter order. We'll get that back in and retest. Mr. James over here working on this Sprinter right here. Had a problem with the hot water heater not making hot water. And initially we did find that the switch was stuck, and when we pushed on it to get it to work, we still had no amp draw at the heating element. So we did find that it had a bad heating element, and then we did go in and do a service where we cleaned out all the muck inside. So now we're going to put the water back in it and go ahead and try it. All right, well, that finishes up this week here at Shelburne RV. We appreciate you guys watching. Please make sure to hit the subscribe and like button. Just remember that this video is Cousin Gary approved.